An argument at a karaoke bar.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 239 on the calendar in the matter of Rathgaber versus Borsity. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
It is your claim that the defendant had you falsely arrested for assault.
Yes, that's right, Your Honor.
And the defendant says that you did in fact hit him at a bar. He had every... He had every right to call and make a complaint, and that's your problem. So why don't you tell me how you know him and when this incident took place?
The incident took place in February of this year at a nightclub around the corner from my house. I did not know Mr. Borsity from Adam at the time. When he accosted me in this bar and was trying to convince me that I should leave with him and his friend to go somewhere, as he put it, a little more exciting. At that time, he started pushing me slightly, and we were by the revolving doors, and I was afraid he was going to try and push me out the doors of the restaurant.
How was he pushing you? Show me how he was pushing you.
With his hands around my waist, and I was facing him. It was very uncomfortable. I tried to turn. As I was wearing backless shoes, I tried to turn so that I could stop myself from being pushed. And it only lasted a couple of seconds before the manager at the time yelled over for him to cut it out and take a seat, which he did. However, at the very end of the evening, Mr. Borsity again came forward and, was basically asking me, don't you want to go somewhere else? Where are we going after this? That sort of thing. And I finally had lost my patience with him, and I believe what I said to him was, the closest you're going to get to leaving this bar with me is if I kick you in the butt on your way out the door.
Okay.
At which point, he grabbed me by the shoulders, and I broke his grip and slapped him. He had twice accosted me before I slapped him.
Just a second. So he grabbed you by the shoulders.
Yes.
And you pushed his arms away and slapped him. Okay. What happened next?
After that, he became really enraged, and his arm went up, and I believe he was going to strike me. But at that time, about 3 or 4 other people stepped in and pulled him off. When they finally let go of him, the first thing he did apparently was to turn and push poor Vince into a bunch of chairs. My understanding is that he was injured. I was standing nowhere near anyone at the time. No one was restraining me, and it says in the warrant as well that...
Okay, so that's what happened. Now, you went home that night.
Yes.
Nothing else happened. There was no other contact between the two of you.
As I was leaving, a friend of mine had agreed to walk me out. Mr. Borsity and Mr. Duffy had circled back around in their truck and were waiting for me outside and approached me. Jason, who was escorting me out, said, get back in the car. We don't want any trouble. You guys have, you've caused enough trouble this evening. Don't talk to her, don't anything. And they kept walking. And that's when Vince said, my buddy just wanted to apologize, and Mr. Borsity didn't say anything even like that. But there was no altercation or anything outside. I was like, yeah, fine, whatever, it's done. Got in my car, and I went home that evening.
And the next thing that happened was?
The next thing that happened with him is that I'm basically getting out of my shower on a Saturday evening. There's a sheriff pounding on my front door. I've got a robe and a towel on my head, and I'm arrested for an assault. Okay. That never happened.
What happened with that case?
Well, when we went to court, my attorney had hired a private investigator who had talked to everyone involved. But when we got to the court...
What happened to the case?
It got thrown out.
It was dismissed?
Yes, it was dismissed. They didn't even take it to trial. They said there wasn't enough evidence.
Okay. Now I'll hear you.
We were in the bar. We were drinking. We were doing karaoke. She was in the bar when we arrived. As the night went on, we were talking about several conversations. There was nobody else in the bar. There was only 5 people in the bar total. This, what she said, is a lot of fiction, a lot of fiction. We were talking about the martial arts and things like that, and she basically said, in an inebriated state, that she could probably take me in a conflict. Anyway, I went to the restroom, and I came back. Then she made another derogatory comment to me about my endowment, and I told her, I said...
What did she say to you?
Well, she was talking to the other bartender, and she's looking at me, and she said, I think he probably has a small, That's what she said. And I said, were you talking to me? And she, with a smirk on her face, she said, oh, no, I was talking about somebody else. And I go, whatever. And I called her. I walked away from her, right?
Why did you call her a name?
Because she was speaking to me. Because she was speaking. There was nobody else in the room, and she was smirking. And she had already, said she thought she could take me in a fight, and she was acting, And she'd been up. She's not a wallflower, Your Honor. She had been up doing karaoke. She had done 4 or 5 songs, over the course of the evening. But anyway, make a long story short, she as I was walking away, she said it again, that, you know, I think she probably could take me in karate. And I said, well, I slapped down some money.
This was after you called her a name.
After I called her, yes, I did call her. And I slapped down some money on the table, and I said, there's $5 here that says you can't, you know, that you couldn't take me.
So you challenged her to, shh,
Well, no.
please? You challenged her.
Well, I just basically said, yes, I did, I guess.
Okay.
And then Ron, the bartender here, he was bartending at the time, he witnessed it, and he said, take it outside if you're going to do anything. You know, I picked up my money and started walking away from her, and she came up behind me, tapped me on the shoulder, I turned around, she slapped me. And I looked at her and I said, what are you, crazy, right? She slapped me again. Then Vince jumped, he was on a stool, he came around, grabbed me and put my arms around me so it wouldn't go any further escalation, right? While my arms are being held like this, she punched me with a closed fist, okay? I broke free of him. That's how he got injured. When I threw him off me, he hit a table. He fell down, okay? Then she swung at me again. I grabbed her, and I put her down on the floor. And then the other bartender, her friend Jason, he came around from the back of the bar and held her while I left. And that's what happened.
This is the fourth version of this story
Just
that
a
he's
second.
told.
You testified, is that right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Both of you were drunk. The only one that wasn't drunk was him.
That's not true, in fact.
Oh, yes, it is.
No.
Oh, yes, it is.
And later today,
He came into my home, took off his clothes, and went straight to the bar.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Susan Rathgaber says she was arrested when fellow bar patron Duff Borsity falsely accused her of assault. Duff says she slapped him twice and then punched him.
Now, you weren't injured,
Well, no, I wasn't, ma'am. I did get,
and so you went home.
yes, ma'am, I did.
You did not call the police from the bar.
No, I did not.
Did you drive yourself home immediately?
Well, no, I waited for him to come out. My roommate, Vince,
How long did you wait outside for Vince?
probably about 5-10 minutes.
Is there any reason why you didn't call the police from the bar where there were witnesses?
He asked me to leave, and I didn't want to cause a scene there.
Who asked you to leave?
The bartender, Ron Jolly.
Okay, now step up. You know the plaintiff.
Yes, ma'am.
Before that evening, had you ever met the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you friendly with Mr. Borsky?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the plaintiff?
She was a regular at the club probably about a year since I started working there.
Okay, did you ever have any words with her?
No, ma'am.
Have any problems with her?
No, ma'am.
She ever become drunk and sloppy?
Once or twice, maybe, yes.
She did.
Yes.
And do you remember how much each of these two people had to drink that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me.
Both of them were pretty well intoxicated, yes.
And when the defendant left, he said he went out and got in his pickup truck. Who drove home?
That I don't know.
Who drove home?
I did, ma'am.
Drunk.
Yes, ma'am. She drove home drunk, too.
I'm going to get there. I thought you lived around the corner. Did you drive home?
Yes, ma'am, I did, but I had waited in the club for about 40 minutes by the time I left. And I waited in my car with Jason for about another 20 after that. And I actually had only had 3 beverages over a 4-hour period that
I don't think that's what he's saying. Is that right?
No, ma'am. I was serving shots to both parties all night.
And they were both pretty well drunk.
Correct. And this did happen around 1:30. And when I left the bar at 2 o'clock, there was nobody outside.
Now, you want to tell me what you observed that
Yes,
night?
ma'am. They were sitting on one side of the bar over here. She was on the other side of the bar. There was conversation back across the bar. The fact of the martial arts did come up. At that point, I did take keen to the conversation because when people are drinking in a bar, a conversation like that comes up, you need to keep an eye on them. Then I did see Mr. Borsity come around. She did actually challenge him a few times, and there was a bet made. He walked around, he put money on the bar, and at that point, I told both of them to go outside. At that time, he picked the money up from the bar, put it back in his pocket. She got up from her seat, tapped him on the shoulder. As soon as he turned around, she took her open fist and slapped him right in his face. His head actually turned completely to the side.
And then what did you see?
She stepped back in an aggressive stance. She was smiling, laughing. I asked her then to grab her things and leave. She took a few steps towards him again, slapped him a second time. That's when Vince came around. He tried to hold Duffy back, and then that's when she hit him again. He took Duffy, threw him off. He went over one table, landed at the base of another table. I was getting furious. I was like, you guys need to leave right now, because then that looks bad on me because I'm not controlling the situation.
I got you. Okay.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, that's just not the story that Mr. Borsity told the police, and it's not the story that was in his warrant that he swore out under oath.
Just a second. Let me tell you something. Both of you were drunk. The only one that wasn't drunk was him.
That's not true, in fact.
Oh, yes, it is.
No.
Oh, yes, it is. He wasn't drunk. The two of you were drunk. That's why I don't care what he swore to in the warrant. I don't care what you're telling me happened, because neither one of you have a clear picture of what happened. He has a very clear picture of what happened. Clear as a bell. I believe that you hit him.
In self-defense.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Nope. I don't. I don't believe it was in self-defense. I believe that you hit him. I don't believe that you injured him. He says you didn't injure him.
No, she didn't.
What? You still can't put your hands on somebody. You can't slap somebody twice. You can't, but just because you're
Well,
a
it
girl.
was perfectly acceptable for him to push me around in a bar.
He didn't push you around at all.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. You may not like what he said to you. You may not like that he was coming on to you. Let's leave or whatever. If you didn't like what he had to say to you and you thought he was drunk or you thought he wasn't being respectful, you could have gotten in your car and gone home. You chose to stay. You chose to stay until 1 o'clock in the morning. So nothing that he said to you was that offensive because the place wasn't hopping with a whole bunch of other people. I believe that you put your hands on him first. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. She made it out like she was a little wallflower. She's a rough chick.
His own two stories to the police and on his warrant didn't match what he just told the judge.
She's a liar, and she got just what she deserved, and I'm glad I won. Judge Judy was right on.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Naku versus Pugh. Step forward, please.
Limo driver Tony Naku is suing computer analyst Rhonda Pugh for the unpaid cost of a limo ride. Rhonda says the limo was a birthday gift.
Mr. Naku, you have a limousine business, is that
Yes,
correct, sir? And it is your claim that the defendant hired your limousine for the purposes of schlepping herself and several relatives of girlfriends around for her birthday, that she used your services and then stiffed you for the bill. You want
Exactly.
your money, $665.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Pugh says it was a birthday present, right?
Right.
Are you a friend of hers?
No, not necessarily.
What does that mean, not necessarily? I never heard an answer like that. Are you a friend of hers?
No.
Had you ever driven her before?
Yes, I have.
How many times?
One other occasion.
Did you charge her?
Yes, I did.
So tell me what happened on the 5th.
Well, on the 5th, I went and picked her up
What time?
Paramount at 9 o'clock and drove them to
When you picked her
Redondo Beach.
up, was there anyone else at her house when you picked her
Oh,
up?
yeah. There was like at least 7 or 8 of them.
Men, women,
Ladies.
all ladies. So it was a
Yeah.
ladies' night out. Is that right, Miss Pugh?
Right, that's correct.
Okay, what birthday was it?
This year, 2003. What year was I born, or what are you asking?
What birthday were you celebrating?
Oh, my 18th?
More like 62.
32.
It's not so terrible. I would take that in a heartbeat. Okay, keep going.
I brought a bottle of champagne, which is we charge, and she had.
Mr. Naku, I have a question before
Sure.
you go on. Because you have a very calming voice,
Yes,
you know.
I'm a really calming guy.
Almost falling asleep. When was the first time you drove her?
Approximately.
Look at me.
A month and a half prior to that.
Mother's Day.
Okay, between Mother's Day and July 5th, when you took her again, did you see Miss Pugh?
He took me again.
Shut. I'm not speaking to you.
Okay.
No,
From
ma'am.
Mother's Day to July 5th, you did not have any contact with her other than the phone call that she made for you to pick her up for her birthday.
Yes.
Is that correct, Miss Pugh?
No, ma'am, he's lying.
Sorry, so you saw him on Mother's Day.
Right.
And he drove you on Mother's Day.
Right.
And after that, when did you see him
Father's
again?
Day.
Father's Day. What happened on Father's Day?
I hired him again for Father's Day.
Oh, good. And you paid him.
Right.
Okay. When was the next time you saw him after Father's Day?
I think we were supposed to get together for drinks.
But you didn't.
Not sure.
Okay. Now, so you took him out for the
And
evening.
took him out to Redondo Beach to this bar, and
Could you pick up the pace a little bit, Mr. Naku? I just, you know, I have
well,
other
I'm trying to
things
get
do
to the
today.
details exactly
I don't
what
need
happened.
details. Just
She
what time
has-
did you bring him home?
Like by the time I got home, it was at 3 in the morning.
And what did you do when you dropped him off?
All night she's making passes at me, grabbing my private parts,
Please.
which I didn't appreciate in public. When we got there, she invited me into her house. We had a couple of drinks at that
Okay,
point.
just a minute. She invited you into the house and you went in and had a couple of drinks.
Yes.
So I imagine that you got over the fact that you were humiliated by her grabbing your private parts in public.
Well,
Just a
apparently
minute.
so.
I assumed that you
Apparently
were getting...
so.
I assume, Mr. Naku, that you had gotten over that humiliation. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Enough so that you went inside and had a couple of drinks. And what happened after you had a couple of drinks?
So we had a couple of drinks, we went to her bedroom. Before things got intimate, I tried to take care of the bill, try to take care of business first. So she gave me, I asked her repeatedly several times. She finally took out her credit card and gave me her credit card number for the payment. The clothes came off. A couple hours later, and it was time to go home because I could not find a credit card number anywhere.
Okay.
And then I asked her...
Just a second. I got the whole picture from your end. Okay. Picked you up at 9 o'clock, dropped you off at 3 o'clock.
9:45.
9:45. What was the arrangement as far as payment? How much an hour?
Like $50.
$50 an
I had
hour.
normally paid in the past.
Okay. Did he come to your house?
Yes, he did.
Did he spend part of the night with you?
He came into my home, took off his clothes, and went straight to the bar.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, it was kind of uncomfortable.
Miss Pugh,
He
when
got
did
a
you-
little frisky, and I asked him to leave.
And did he leave?
Not right away. He was drunk. I paid him to leave. Well, I gave him my credit card information because I was ready for this to be over with. Now, originally when I talked to him and I asked him about...
So why do you say it was a birthday present? What makes you think
Right,
it was a
because
birthday
when I
present?
talked to him before, he told me not to worry about it. He said, it's your birthday. He comes to my house with champagne and with Iranian pastries and all this other good stuff. And, you know, so this is what he led me to believe, that it was a birthday gift.
You called him to set up 7-5. There was no birthday present.
No, I
You were
anticipated
retaining
on
him.
paying him
Right,
at that time.
Good. Okay, how much do you charge an hour?
$65 an hour, man.
All right,
And
how
it
many?
clearly says on my business card.
Let me say, for the purposes of this case, that it was $65 an hour, and I will take your hours. You picked her up at 9. You dropped her off at 3. That's 6 hours. 6
Yes.
times 65.
Yes. Comes up to $3.90 and $50 for the bottle of champagne.
So get the bottle of champagne. Who ordered champagne?
She
Something
did. She
cheap
ordered
from
champagne.
the... Oh, my God. That is so not true.
Just a second. I have $390. That's 6 times 65.
Okay, and they have a 20% opportunity for tips and beverages and gas, so on.
Is this your limousine?
Yes, it is.
Never combine business with pleasure, Mr. Naku.
I wasn't.
It's a
I was
very,
led
listen
into
to
it.
me, it's a
Ma'am,
very...
this lady thinks...
Listen to me very carefully. $390 represents 6 times $65 an hour.
Right.
You got your tip. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $390. That's all.
Thank
Step
you, Your
out.
Honor.
What about lost wages, ma'am?
The father of her child, Dirk Spikovius, for storage fees. Patricia claims Dirk abandoned his property at her home.
All rise. Now it's case number 23 on the calendar in the matter of Cedarquist versus Spikovius.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Cedarquist, the defendant was your former boyfriend, and you have a 5-year-old child together.
Yes, that's right.
The complaint is an interesting one. You lived in a house together for a period of time up until when?
June of '07.
And at that time, you separated, and the defendant ultimately left the house. You claim he left the house, leaving certain property there. And the property remained there for 18 months. And you want him to pay storage fees for that property.
Yes, I do.
That's what your case is about.
Yes.
That's not going to happen. Did you have a storage agreement with him?
Yes, we did.
No, you didn't. You never had an agreement that he was going to pay you for storage. As a matter of fact, according to the defendant, which I believe, the reason that stuff was left in the house, at least part of the reason, was the ownership of the house was in dispute, and there was some legal action with regard to who was going to get the house. Is that true?
That's
Was
true.
the house in dispute?
Yes, it was.
Fine. And when was that dispute resolved?
I lost the action in the first part of '07.
Do you have an appeal pending?
Yes, we have an appeal pending.
At the same time, I understand, based upon your answer, a custody dispute. Is that correct?
That has been resolved now.
How has it been resolved, sir?
We were in the social services system for 18 months, and as of April 1st, the child has been awarded me as the full parent.
When you say you were in the social service system, what does that mean?
During our battles in the past, the police came out and had removed the child and put her into
This
protective
doesn't have
custody.
anything to do with the case, Your Honor. This is private information, and this is a different problem altogether. I don't want to bring my daughter into it. I'd like not to.
I have questions. If you don't want to answer my questions,
I'm just being
you can
protective
leave.
of my daughter.
Your daughter is how old?
She's 5.
Yeah, tell her not to watch. Tell her not to watch. At this point, you're in the house. Some of his property was there. I want to see a copy of a contract that you had with him for storage of whatever property. These were auto parts. I want to see it. Do you have a copy of the contract?
You know, I do.
I want
do
to see it.
in the sense
Just
that...
a second. Just give me a copy of a contract of the storage agreement that he made with you to store these auto parts
Well, I
in your
told
house
him-
that you sold when?
The last 6 months. And I told him I was going to be selling them for storage, and he, in fact, helped me. I have proof here that he helped me with some of these listings, knowing I was selling them for storage purposes, storage fee purposes.
Show me a contract that you had. Show me.
A written contract that he signed?
Yes.
Not a verbal one?
No.
I don't have one.
And the stuff has been there since June of 2007. Is that correct?
Technically, it's been there
2006.
since 1989.
No, it
Is
hasn't,
that-
Dirk. No, that's not true. That's
When
not true.
did you first move into the house, Miss Cedarquist?
I moved into the house in of 02.
Sir, I don't understand how it could be there in 1989 if you moved into the house. If she didn't move into the house until 2002.
He
I
lost
purchased
the
the
house.
house in 1989. It's been my house. And
Just a minute.
You lost the house in foreclosure.
Oh, forget it. Oh, forget it. Okay. Very good. Now you have a counterclaim. I'm prepared to hear your counterclaim in about 30 seconds.
Right.
You have a counterclaim for her selling your stuff on eBay?
that is correct.
Did you ever give her permission to sell your stuff on eBay? Just answer the question. That requires a
No.
yes or a no.
No.
I don't believe it. You just started to give me a reason. Did you ever give her permission to sell your stuff on eBay?
Yes, when we were together.
I have proof that shows him giving me permission just months ago.
Mr. Spikovius, if the plaintiff has proof that you gave her permission after June of 07 to sell your property on eBay, I'm not going to be happy with you, sir. Do you understand?
I understand that.
All I want to ask you is, did you give her permission since June of 07 to sell any of your auto parts on eBay?
No.
Fine, show me the proof.
This is
Because
communication.
that's you. Now I'm dealing with his counterclaim. I'm already resolving your claim for storage, which is nonsense.
Well, this is his. This is,
Nonsense! Did you ever write to her, be extremely careful, the bolts break easy, and it's easy to mess up the strip? Yes, take off the lights and sell separate? And that was written in May of 2008.
Not in May 2008. No.
Well, that's what it's, I mean, I don't do this machine well, and I certainly don't do eBay well. Isn't that date Saturday, May 24th, 2008? Isn't that what it says, Bird?
That's what it says.
I want to show this to him. May of 08 is after June of 07.
Yes.
can I also
understand.
ask you to look at the pictures of of how much stuff there is?
I don't care. You lived in this house together. You lived in this house as a couple. He lived in this house separately. You lived in this house separately. I gather there was some sort of ongoing dispute with regard to the ownership of the house and who should get the house. You got the house. He got the kid. That's the way it worked out. If you're not happy with that, that's too bad. But that's the way it is. You have a child who's 5. Start getting along with each other because you're tied to each other for a long time. If he has primary physical custody of this child now, in the foreseeable future, you better be nice to him and stop irritating him. And you the same, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay? You got to start loving your daughter more than you hate each other. And stop fighting over nonsense,
Yeah,
like storage fees for auto parts.
I have lived his whole,
Listen
my
to me.
whole life has been
Listen to
revolved
me.
around
Hey,
these parts.
Listen to me. I'm not hearing any more about your stored auto parts. Do you
Then they're
understand? Do you understand?
Then they're mine. I understand.
Perfect.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Patricia Cedarquist says the father of her child, Dirk Spikovius, owes for abandoning his property at her home. Dirk is countersuing Patricia for check fraud and for selling his belongings on eBay.
Now, you still have any property at her house?
Yes, I do.
You have 5 days to go and get the stuff. If you do not get it within 5 days,
Your Honor, I've lived with these for so many years and fought with the city over it, the neighbors. What about damages?
Miss Cedarquist, listen to me carefully. Didn't you have your listening ears on? You have a 5-year-old child that you're hell-bent on protecting.
Yes.
Listen to me carefully. You are tied to him. He is now the primary physical custodian of your 5-year-old.
That will change.
It may, and it may not. And irrespective of whether it changes or not, both of you, based upon the fact that they gave him physical custody now, are going to have input in this child's life. And if a court finds that you're going to impede that, no court will give you custody of a child. I wouldn't give you custody of a child if I felt for 1 second that by giving you custody of this child, she was going to be deprived of her father. And that's the sense that I'm getting from you, Miss Cedarquist. That is the sense that I'm getting from you. Put your listening ears on. You gotta love your child more than you hate each other. He's gonna come within 5 days and pick up all of his junk. And whatever he doesn't pick up with a marshal within 5 days belongs to her.
I gave you so many opportunities.
Hey, I'm speaking. Don't you get it?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Whatever you don't pick up now
In 5
is
days.
hers. Now, based on this, that you can't explain to me, that suggests to me that you lied to me when you said that after June of 07, she never had permission to sell any of your stuff on eBay.
Correct.
So if she sold any of your stuff on eBay for whatever costs, I'm dismissing that part of your counterclaim. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now I'm going to get to this other part of your counterclaim if you still want to pursue it.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
During our breakup, she stole a checkbook and proceeded with check fraud.
You broke up in June of 07,
Correct.
and she stole your checkbook.
Correct.
And when did she write a check out?
She wrote a check out in February 7th of 07. Several checks.
Yes, and when did you find out about it?
Later that month, when
In
my bank
February.
account,
Why in the world would you think that I would entertain that 2 years later?
because knowing that she doesn't have any money, I wasn't going to pursue it. It was a
Fine.
lost cause.
Well, then you should have pursued it in a more timely fashion. The doctrine is called latches. You sort of waited too long, sir. What else? I'm going to put your listening ears on too.
Other than a collection agency,
You got to love your child more than you hate each other.
I do.
Good. How often does your daughter see her mother?
2 hours twice a week monitored.
By whom?
I was not allowed to be the monitor.
Of course not.
And
I can understand
so
that.
her son and her daughter do the monitoring.
Do they come to your house or do they take the child to her house?
I drop the child off, and sometimes the grandmother drops the child off.
And she comes back, and that's
I
been
pick her
going
up.
on since when?
As of the beginning of this month, April,
Prior to April, where was the child living?
with me,
Okay, and prior to that, where was she living?
with the paternal grandparents,
With your parents?
with my parents.
Okay, fine. Very good. Listen, try to get along, because if you don't get along with him, you don't want to be relegated to 2 hours twice a week with your daughter.
That will change.
I doubt it.
Oh, it will.
Oh, I doubt it.
I don't.
No, I doubt it.
No, they haven't heard everything.
I
They
doubt
didn't
it.
hear about this man.
I doubt it. Your case is dismissed. So's your counterclaim. That's all.
Ladies are excused. You may step out.
He's a liar.
I'm very happy with the judgment.
I call my ex-boyfriend because he took an axe to everywhere in my house. The ceilings, the piano, my glass, everything.
We both were out there with axes and pitches destroying each other's cars and property.
And when the police came, they took my daughter away because he made my home unsafe. Because there was glass everywhere. That's why I don't have her.
It was a scene when you get 9 cop cars out there trying to break us up, trying to decide who to take to jail. Got interesting.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Malburn versus Malburn, step forward, please.
Thomas Malburn is suing his son, Oscar Malburn, for the return of payments made on a motorcycle that Oscar repossessed. Oscar is countersuing for damages to the bike.
Mr. Malburn, this is your son.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, your son took back a motorcycle that he had previously sold to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And he sold to you, and the conditions of the sale were that you were taking over payments.
Yes, ma'am.
Because he could no longer make the payments on the motorcycle that he purchased. You wanted it. You said, I'll take it off your hands. I'll make the monthly payments. He held the title until the payments were made. You made the payments for How long, sir?
16 months.
And then your son came and took back the motorcycle.
Yes, ma'am.
You want the payments that you did, in fact, make on the motorcycle during that time. Your son says that you violated the agreement because you made your payments late, thereby potentially damaging his credit, and he had every right to take it back. He has a counterclaim that is nonsense. He wants to charge you for renting the motorcycle on a weekly or daily basis. That's dismissed out of hand because that was never your agreement. When did you buy this motorcycle?
August of 2007.
And how much was it?
It was $18,000.
What kind of work were you doing at the time?
I was doing construction, stair builder.
Is this the only vehicle you had?
No, I had a car.
When did you make this arrangement with your father to take over your payments?
In February or March of 2008.
Why?
Because I had lost my job.
When did you lose your job?
In February.
When was the last time you had made a motorcycle payment?
January or December.
You had missed a payment?
Yeah.
Well, if you missed a payment, then your credit was already down the tubes, right?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. But you had missed a whole month.
Yeah.
So when your father took over your payments, he made 2 payments to catch up, correct?
Yeah.
That would be a yes.
Yes.
And did he make the payments each month after that?
He made them each month after that, but he never made them on time.
When were they due?
They were doing the 17th of every month.
Did you make the payments on the 17th of each month?
No, I did not.
Because you're going to show me the payments that you made, right?
Yeah.
Let me see them. You have your checks?
No, I do not. I made it off all through the phone.
When did you take this bike back from your father?
In March.
How much had you paid for the bike?
I paid from August to December.
So you paid for 5 months?
Yeah.
And your father paid for 16 months?
Yeah.
Where's the bike?
In my garage.
You have to give it back to him.
No.
Oh, yeah, you do.
No.
Oh, yeah, you do. You have no defense because the only defense that you presented to me was that you took the bike back because your father made the payments late, thereby jeopardizing your credit. In order for you to be able to establish that he jeopardized your credit, you have to have some credit to jeopardize. You already damaged your credit in December 2008 when you missed a payment. And then, according to your own statement, you made your payments late. So what difference does it make if your father made the payments late or you made the payments late?
No, I made my payments on time.
Did you? Show me you made your payments on time. You can't. And you made a contract with your father. And the contract with your father was he was going to make the payments on your motorcycle, which he did for 16 months. And at the end of that period of time that took into consideration the entire loan, the title to the motorcycle would be given to him because that was your contract. He actually owned it. It was no different from you were acting as a car dealership. I'm holding the title till you make your payments. As soon as you finish your payments, I'm going to give you the title. That's what you did. You have a written contract with your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see it.
He has.
Your Honor,
I
have the contract, but he doesn't.
I want to see the contract. Right. This says, to whom it may concern, I am selling my Harley Davidson to my father, Thomas. He will be making the payments on the motorcycle. However, the loan will remain in my name. I am releasing any and all claims of ownership to this motorcycle permanently. And you signed it. He gets the motorcycle back.
No.
Oh, yeah. Marshall's going to come and take it right from your house.
Your Honor,
What?
the motorcycle is in his name. The loan was taken out in his name. So
Yeah.
legally, the motorcycle is his.
Are you on his side? I'll dismiss
No,
your
Your
case.
Honor, I'm not,
You
but-
either have 2 choices. Either I dismiss your case or you go get the motorcycle. You have a valid contract.
No, I'm just looking for the money
Sorry,
back.
you have a valid contract. He permanently released to you any claim of ownership of this motorcycle. This, in conjunction with an order from me, could be presented to a marshal, and you can go and get the motorcycle. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And there was also a
And
verbal
the
contract between
there
the two
can't
of
be
us.
listen to me. I want you to listen to what the law is. The verbal contract cannot be admitted if there is a written contract. You cannot modify a written contract with a verbal one. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Nothing in this piece of paper says that the loan has to be paid on the 17th of the month. It says that you permanently relinquish any claims to ownership of the motorcycle. That's what it says. That's what I'm holding you to. You signed it. We'll prepare the order. Thank you very much. Case is over.
What about the damages done to this bike?
He's
that were
taking
never-
the bike